who were not liking the feature film. They were really, really, really huge. Were there a couple of people who liked it? How do you let go? Tim, since yes.
Do you need to let go?
I don't know. Do you need to let go? Because
I don't know. No, I think I let go after the premiere. Then I've seen it. I've seen it with the first audience member, and then I do think it's important to actually see what the audience says about it. So have an IMDb page, encourage people to review it on IMDb. It's nasty sometimes what comes out there, it truly is, but it's better somebody talking about your film than nobody talking about it. And it's okay that the ideas as a creative that you had in mind and how it was going to be received is one thing, and then to actually understand how the audience perceives it is a thing entirely differently. And that's okay, that also helps you as a storyteller to try and sort of like narrow the gap between audience and you as a creative. Because something that I had a certain response to when I made it in the film or saw it in the post-production or even on the premiere night might not exactly be that way, and it's okay, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, please.
It's not easy to do that though, right? I only learned it on this film, how to let go. I would go through, because I've never had like a film that I made that was a breakout, massive hit. All my films have been incremental successes. And the first film was great. You don't make that much money, but everyone receives it well. And then you read nasty comments, then you go into bouts of depression. And it's about learning it's not easy as a human being to understand criticism and to know how to block it out. I've only learned that now, how to block out. So I think it's also something you have to practice, because you question yourself based on other people. In daily life, we question ourselves based on what people say. Imagine your vulnerability when you've put something out there for people to judge. It can slow you down before you get back on the bandwagon. But it's only after doing it a few times do you realize everyone is entitled to their own opinion, because they're all human. Not everyone's going to like your stuff, but there will be enough people to like it to make it successful in increments so that you can carry on doing what you want to do.
Now, talking about success, this is going to be my final question for the panelists before we open it up for everybody else. Talking about success, everybody is looking at us and saying, how did you do it? So now the question will be, what are the key factors that determine a successful feature film? And what advice would you give people on how to attain those factors? Obviously, because everybody wants a formula on how do you make a successful film. Obviously, there is no right way, because we've all done it in different ways. But if you could just mention briefly, what are the key factors that makes a successful feature film? Let's start with you.
Yeah, so for me, I think having gone through this first film now and working now on some new projects, I think the success, the one tool that that I can take away is starting with the end. Start with the end in mind. Have that clarity around what it is that you're actually doing. At the end of the day, it is a business. You have to look at it as such if you want to do the next one, if you still want to be around. So what will it cost you? What will you sell it for? What's the difference? Is the difference worth waking up in the morning for? Then I think you piece the other puzzles together, because film is complicated, right? It's like I said, it's like a normal business. But if I sell kapana, I make the kapana today and I can sell it today and I get cash flow today. With film, it can take you a year and a half to get the product, and you have no cash flow at any given time. Your sale at the end is not guaranteed. I mean, you can forecast a couple of things, but nothing is guaranteed. So the formula, at least that we've now adopted, is we're not going to go into pre-production until we know what that end looks like, right? Who's going to buy this product? Otherwise, I'm building products into a market that probably can't consume them. So having that clarity, I think for me is probably the one. If there's ever a formula, it's probably that, to say, how do I ensure that my sales versus less my costs give a positive number, and I've got the highest chance of getting that number out. Yeah.
Philippe?
I think it depends how you define success. If you define success as the amount of money you will get out of the film, I agree with you. For me, I define success about what impact the film will have, whether it is Capana, whether it is Lucas. Of course, I would like to get some money out of it, but for me, the most important thing is, did I manage to be true to the story? Did I manage to give a voice to the people who are represented in the story? And is it having an impact? Is it making a change in Namibia? Are people talking differently about street kids now that they were 6 months ago? And is the ministry is doing something about it? Are LGBTQI plus rights better now than they were when we did Capana? So for me, the success is maybe more personal, the impact the film has on people and on society. I had screening of Capana with some very homophobic people at the beginning of the film that were actually telling at the end of the film, go back together, you clearly love him. So completely changing their perspective and forgetting they were talking about two guys because they were caught up in the story. And for me, that is success. If I got those reactions in the audience, that's success.
Bianca, I know you in workshops, you always tell us about the different models. Is there different models to make a successful feature film?
There are different models, but the one thing that is very common is perseverance. You cannot start writing a script or have a story and want to make this thing, but you yourself are not moving the boat forward. You are waiting for someone to come and give you this money that you're going to shoot this film on. If you persevere in writing that story, you will value it at the end when you read it. You'll go, I believe, because I've put so much time and energy into this, I know the script is going to work. And I know that it's going to work because the story works, because I know there's a market for it, because I want to market it like this, because I want to roll it out like this. It allows you to think, and that thinking does not happen in 3 days or 4 days or 5 days. It happens over a period of time. And if other people see other key value chain, like distribution, if they see that effort going in, together you can make a success. Because there are successful films that are actual rubbish. And that's okay. That doesn't mean it's not a successful film. Maybe the ideas that they had going into it and the strategies they had that make it for your product. I won't release a story out when I'm producing or directing. I don't release something out unless I believe in the value of that, because I have to go make that money back.
Go make the money back. Tim?
I think the first successes, nights and all these things, if you reach that line where you see end credits at the end of the film, then you've done something amazing. You've probably indebted yourself, you've lost friends, you've lost whatever, but you've finished that film. And that in itself is a success. And then the second part of the success is if you're going to make another one after. Because maybe that one was the one and only, and now you're done with filmmaking. But if you actually have figured out this is actually what I want to do, like you guys learning lessons from Skeleton Coast, going like, okay, now we know even more what to do and what not to do and those things. I think those are the two key successes for me. You know, and obviously financial is important, creative fulfillment is important. But if we have lost a storyteller at the end of making that film, that's actually a greater loss than anything else.
Well, thank you so much for that. Obviously, you guys have mentioned so much throughout the session, of making sure that you have an end goal, having a product that is audience ready. also having an impactful film that goes beyond just the numbers, but making sure that you have really moved things socially, as Philip is saying, and how Mr. Drain was is always saying, it's all about the numbers. All about the numbers. It has to make sense. If it's not going to make sense at the end, you'll be out here having 340% of your budget that you wasted because we were not determined, we didn't plan, we didn't factor out a lot of things, and it's a very hard thing, especially for some of us, because I had to learn the hard way that you have to plan before you even get to shooting it. So now we're going to open the floor for questions, and seeing that we only have, is this the only mic? Oh, okay. I'm going to have to stand up then. Thank you. I'm going to start over here, and then I saw another hand over there. This side, nobody? Okay. So we'll start here.
Hi, everyone. Just to introduce myself, I am Cool Cat Productions, an inspiring director/producer. My question is to the guy who lost the Ari. So I am going into this, I'm falling in love with shooting documentaries, true life stories, right? So my question is, where do you draw the line between, because I mean, look, if you lost millions on a set, right? What do you prioritize? Do you prioritize the budget in saying, okay, you lost this much? Where do you draw the line? Do you stop? Do you make plan for, because now your reputation is on the line, right? Where do you prioritize your reputation? Do you prioritize getting the film done? Your emotions. I mean, if I lost it, I'll just leave everything and go home and just want to disappear from planet Earth. So yeah, that's my...
Mr. Sir?
Yeah, so it's difficult. I mean, I was on set probably 85-90% of the time as an EP, right? As an EP, typically you're sitting in an office somewhere, air-conditioned, but I was on site watching it happen. Because I wanted to learn, I wanted to understand what actually goes into this whole process. And I've released every single payment on that project. I've released it personally. At some point, we realized that we're not going to make our money back. And I had to make a choice. And like I said, I had partners that say to us, when we got our post-production budgets, for instance, we needed to make a call. Do we cut back on the post and make a slightly more mediocre film? Because you can grade it differently, right? I can get somebody to grade it in their backyard, and then I'm done. And then I don't know if anyone's seen the Netflix specs, finishing specs. They're super stringent, and to finish a film to those specs is expensive, because there's quality control, dead pixels. There's a whole bunch of stuff that they want you to comply with. So the decision we had to make was to say, we know we're not going to make our money back. Is it a lost leader or not? The decision we made was let's carry on and let's meet those specs, because that's the school fees we have to pay. There's different ways that you can get there. That's at least how I see it. I can do 15, 20, 30 years to try and build up incrementally, or I can say, you know what, pay the school fees, have a lost leader, but at least be able to say, guys, have a look at what we can do. And then give me a chance to do something, and then I'll make it up on the next one. Most of the filmmakers that I've met now have told me that very few of them have made money on their first film, their second film, their third film. It's only after a couple of ones when you've got all these tricks where you actually start getting it right. So we've gone in with that approach, and we've finished the film with that approach. And at some point we had to make that call to say, are we going to count our losses, or are we going to carry on? Then maybe just a closing on that is, if we had said we stop, right, then you lose everything. Then you don't have a film either, right? Then you don't have anything to show for it. You've invested it, and at some point you've put in too much to turn around. So we said, stick it out, go to the end, and then you hope for the best, and then use that school fees to try and make sure that when you do the next one, you're better prepared and you take those lessons. No, we couldn't get insurance on it. So with some of the, yeah. So we couldn't. It's a production cost. So we've absorbed it in the production. So obviously with these expensive cameras as well, you don't find them locally, right? So we had to get them from different places. We had cameras from different places. We got cameras from South Africa. So a company like Media got us cameras. But Media don't give you cameras if you're a Namibian company. You need to register a company in South Africa. It's a whole process. And bringing it in is super difficult because you've got customs, you need commercial bonds, you're temporarily importing stuff. It's a mess, and they can't give you anything if you don't have insurance. So we had to get something which doesn't have insurance, and the owner took the risk, right? But we've accepted it as a production cost. We're trying to figure out how best do you deal with it. But some of those lessons, right? Insurance, you're like, what can happen? You learn.
You learn. Question over here.
I have 3 questions, and they all go to the panel. First question is, does location impact production value? And if so, how does it impact? And the second one is, has any one of you faced challenges along the lines of safety and health of everyone on set? Because Mr. Doringo has spoken about challenges about security, but has any one of you faced challenges along those lines? And the third one, you guys mentioned, I don't know if it was Bianca, like cast being a component of also high value film. How does that work? Does it have to be a famous actor or a high talented actor? Just maybe to digest.
Okay, Tim, you can do the security one. Bianca, you can do the second one she just asked. Which one was that one?
Safety.
Safety is for Tim, and then the other one, casting, and Mr. Philip, you can take location. Okay, fine.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I'll take health and safety. Or is that you?
Oh, the ministers. Look at you guys fight.
So do we start?
Yeah, please. Health and safety.
Health and safety. We shot down here on Independence Avenue, a night scene for the feature film. We had police blocking off Independence Avenue. It was a stretch just here between Zoo Park and where Spurs. And actually what happened, this was 2 a.m. The police officer blocked a car that was speeding, but the car went past the police officer and was gunning towards us on set. So we all had to clear that moment. Senga, you remember, right? You were the AD then. Yeah. And we all had to clear, and this car raced past us. You're talking like 100 kilometers an hour, right? In the middle of the night. So obviously this guy was probably a drunk driver who saw the cops, wanted to avoid them by all means. And the cop on the other end tried to stop that car. It didn't work either. So stuff like that happens, but what you have in that moment is you just have to have enough safety barriers. So obviously where the police block was and where our set was, that was 250 meters though. So it gave us that opportunity to actually still clear when something like that happens. Another example, this afternoon at 2:30, I have a documentary showing at the cinema. Please come if you have time, Wafes Tale. There we were on a boat. We were filming guys who are fishing in a small little thing, you know. It's like 2 teenage girls and older fishermen. And the producer insisted that we as the crew are now on a real proper safe boat where the camera can have railing and nobody of the crew has any problems. The only challenge was that that boat that we were on couldn't get to where the small boat was because the depth of the water is different. So then I made the decision, okay, I'm going to take it on me. I jumped off the boat and I went close to the smaller boat, and the water went to here, so it wasn't really a safety risk. But bottom line is, you always need to prepare. Always prepare for the worst case scenario, because if there's one thing you don't want to have, is serious injuries and, worst of all, death. Because that's just going to ruin the entire energy of your set, of your movie, and might not even see your movie to get completed. So rather be super safe and not need it than the other way around. Okay.
Bianca, her question, just to repeat, was how do you choose locations for high-value feature films?
Yeah. So almost all of my films are shot in different locations. It's just something that that's always appealed to me. The second film I made, I shot in Johannesburg and